I want to welcome everybody and thank you for attending Hawthorn University's webinar series. I'm Paula Bartholomew, the Director of Online Events, and it's always a pleasure of mine to be able to be here together and certainly able to facilitate these presentations. We'll certainly have time for a question and answer period, but we'll save it to the end of the presentation and we'll respond to your questions or comments at that time. But you don't have to wait until the end. If a question or thought comes to mind, just write it into the webinar question panel and I'll present it to Sylvia at the end. And also want to let you know that I'm certain we can expect some terrific information here today. So we're recording the presentation and it'll be available with the slides for replay on our website in just a couple days. And if you're listening for the first time, Hawthorn University's Holistic Health and Nutrition Webinar Series is a platform bringing excellent information and resources for our students and our alumni and our faculty in order to augment their Hawthorn education and to expose us to the wealth of knowledge and experience that our guest presenters bring to the table again and again. You know, the many ways that our students and grads are using their Hawthorn education in their practices is nothing short of amazing. We have a variety of accredited degree and certificate programs at Hawthorn. Some of them are for those that are pursuing a clinical track with the goal of working directly with clients. And other programs are dedicated to those that are seeking to primarily educate, be that by writing books or developing courses, workshops, programs, public teaching, speaking, teaching for schools. And then we also have other options for those who simply want to learn valuable, credible information in a conducive environment. And the success of our students is the testament of Hawthorn's mission and principles to provide quality, affordable, holistic health and nutrition education. Our webinars are always open to the interested public too, because we love to learn more at Hawthorn. We hope you do too. So join us anytime. And that brings me right to today's webinar and the fact that awareness of nutrition and health supportive practices are certainly growing, and I'm thrilled about that. But that leads me to say that I'm so fortunate, we all are, to have Sylvia Doss here with us today to teach us how to propose our workplace wellness programs. And today we'll learn how to get employers to believe in and purchase our wellness programs. And Sylvia will share what you need to know about the role of workplace wellness within a company, including understanding expectations and how to organize your sales process, 3 key strategies to successfully align your offering with what the employer wants, and creating a framework for the perfect proposal. So I just think this presentation is a really exciting one and certainly provides another bonus for our professional toolkit. So I'm really looking forward to this. And if you don't know Sylvia, let me give a little bit of background. She is a workplace wellness expert and a strategic advisor with over 15 years experience designing and implementing innovative health and wellness solutions for companies. She's delivered successful programs that focus on engaging employees in both preventative and chronic condition management. And this resulted in both the employees and employers experiencing the positive productivity and the cost improvements that result from engaged, healthy, and happy employees. Her experience includes working with various sized companies from small to global corporations and developing solutions for employees who work on-site, at home, as well as internationally. She believes that wellness is the cornerstone to achieving our life goals. And as a result of her philosophy and personal experience working within corporations, she founded Open Circles to provide effective solutions attractive to workplaces and individual consumers. Sylvia teaches corporate employee benefits strategy to human resource professionals at Golden Gate University, San Francisco, and she is a certified holistic nutritionist and regularly leads spin and exercise classes. I love that last part, Sylvia. I love it all, but that just really puts it into perspective. So it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for offering us this valuable information.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the invitation. I'm actually thrilled to be here, thrilled to be talking about this.
Great, great. Well, I'm really eager to learn from your expertise, and I expect that I'm going to understand this process a lot more, and all of us are going to be able to implement this information because of the information. So thank you so much, and I'm going to let you start when you're ready.
All right, excellent. Well, I appreciate all of you setting aside some time today to listen to this. This is actually one of my absolute favorite topics, and I'm going to tell you why. Through my career, I have witnessed so many companies um, and, entrepreneurs, consultants, people like us go out to employers, contact employers, pitch their proposals, and just fail. And the sad part about that is that throughout my career, I've sold these plans, I've priced the plans, I've been on all different sides of the sales side. But I've also worked with companies where I made a decision on a plan. So, some of these people I really liked. I really liked them and would have loved for them to have a great proposal, would have loved to be able to find a way to have them work with our company and with our employees. But, being at the employer at the time just didn't have the opportunity to say, okay, you guys have a good solution, but let me show you how you need to restructure this. So I'm happy to be able to do it now. And it's a lot of what I do in consulting is work with individual consultants and startups, who have good solutions, who are bringing their heart, to the business, and just help them to connect with employers, which is generally pretty foreign. So I want to start out with, I think what this so became evident to me is years ago, I'm sitting at this forum, and you may know that there's some large business groups. There's, let's say, National Business Group on Health. The National Business Group on Health has some local groups. I think this group I was sitting with were companies that were members of the Pacific Business Group on Health. So it's a lot of really large employers in California. And they arranged something where they would have all these different health and wellness solutions come and present. And they would have, let's say, 10, 15 minutes to do their presentation. And we're there, and they're coming through and they're doing their presentation, and the first person presents, and then we ask them a question, and you could just see that their face would go blank because they wouldn't have the answer. They hadn't thought about it. And okay, so then, maybe the second person comes, maybe they can answer the first question pretty well, but when you answer the second question and their face goes blank. And after a while, the employers just weren't interested anymore, because what we had in front of us were a lot of solutions that sounded really good. They had the data as far as, oh, if you do this, it should save you this kind of money. But how we were going to implement all that and make it work within the organization was just, we didn't see how it was going to happen. And by the end of the day, there were no more, the employers had no more questions, basically weren't interested, and that was it. So what I want to talk about today is how do we kind of strategically put our offering into a way that it fits within the employer's world, and how do we go about demonstrating that within a good proposal framework. And that's how we get, employers to actually buy. Oh, hold on for a second. All right. So I want to start off talking about the landscape of workplace wellness. And this is so important because a main problem that I've seen is just solutions not understanding what the landscape is like. And the only way that we can have some idea of how we are positioned within that landscape is to understand what is the employer seeing. So I'm going to ask all of us to do something, throughout this proposal today. We probably all have in our head either something that we'd like to share with employers, or something that we have shared with employers, some kind of solution or program or talk that we regularly give. I want you to just step back for a second and just kind of be open to how our current solution or what we're thinking about delivering kind of sits within this framework, kind of sits within this landscape. And, we start thinking about, are there other things that we could be doing? Because I'm going to tell you something. This landscape right now is pretty wide open, and there are like some really fabulous opportunities. So I could talk about workplace wellness growth. We all know about workplace wellness growth. That's why we're here, right? It's a big deal. But this is how it's a big deal. And these stats are from a year ago, but they're about the same, if not starting to go up a little bit. $8 billion industry in the US, right? The growth has been about 8% a year, is expected to keep going. And this is not just a US thing, this is a worldwide. Future projections are $40 billion worldwide. I consult with a lot of companies who are not US companies. They are companies from elsewhere in the world who often have an offering that's working somewhere else in the world, and they want to bring it to the US, and they want to bring it to the employer market. And a lot of what's driving that is this next bullet: significant growth within digital health technology. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about that. Now, the good news, HR managers are still increasing the number of offerings. 66% have increased the number of the health and wellness offerings. And employees are feeling good about it. Look, 89% of employees feel good that their company is supportive of their health and wellness goals, right? They're not so suspicious. They're actually happy that it's there. But we have to pause. We have to pause and take a look at this digital health market. And if you don't believe me that this is a big market, I want you to check out, there was a conference I went to last year. It was the first year they had this conference. It was called health.com, but it was spelled HLTH because they got rid of the E and A because they wanted to take the waste out of health, apparently. But it's spelled HLTH.com. The second conference is coming up this October. You want to get an idea of what's going on with digital health and the health technology and how it's influencing not only employers, but just the whole health world. Sign up for that conference. It's in Vegas. It'll be fun. Take your friend with you. Go down there, spend a couple of days and check it out. This is a really tremendous and significant impact on our health world. So when we look at the digital health solutions, these are the ones who are largely knocking on employers' doors every day. Now, some of you out there may have a digital solution. Some of you may not. I'm not saying you need to, but I think we need to be mindful of who's out there. So over on the left here is what I see as making a good digital solution. One is it's continuous, right? It's on our phone. It's an app on our phone. We can access it all the time. It's autonomous. We're able to update it pretty easily. We can update it and influence everybody. It has quality content. So a lot of these solutions, they can plug right into information that is already available and share that information. So let's say it's an app that wants to help people be more compliant within diabetes, right? They're able to tap out to information that's already out there. Expert access. Now this we don't see with a lot of apps unless they're using a chat bot. Now I don't want to get a lot in the chat bots, but that's where you have the little machine learning automated thing that kind of pretends like it's talking to you, but it's really a machine. But having this expert access, having access to a real person. In fact, I'm evaluating an app right now, and they provide online physical therapy, really in the wellness space, not so much in the, not so much after you've had a surgery or anything, but really in a wellness space. And they have all these items. Plus, they give me access to a real physical therapist I can talk to. So I get the exercises pushed out to me on the phone. I can text back and forth with the physical therapist. I can talk with other people who are in the program, get information get information on like osteoarthritis. And every so many weeks, I actually get on the phone and have a conversation with Enrique, which I love because Enrique was a real person. He could talk to me like a real person. And the last one is non-judgmental. Non-judgmental is that community aspect. That's a lot that we can build into our programs, whether we're digital or not. And one other thing I want you to understand about digital health solutions and why they're such a big deal. Most of them are venture capital based. And because of that, the easiest way for a venture capitalist to get their money back on a digital health solution is to sell to a lot of people. Think about it. You have one digital health solution, just one solution, and you sell it to Citibank, who has 150,000 employees, or you sell it to an IBM who has 100,000 employees, and you charge that company a separate monthly fee for each employee. That is significant. So that is what's driving it. That is definitely a competition. If whether you are in digital health or not, that is competition. Now, let's look at employees. This is why we're here. We're here ultimately to help the employees out there. We're here to help the people who I think of as being on the other side of this employer gateway. And what do they say are the biggest health obstacles? I want you to know, they're not talking about the biggest nutrition obstacles. They're talking about the biggest health obstacles. Food at office celebrations. Snacks brought in by coworkers. It's like all the stuff you bring after the Super Bowl party because you didn't want it in your house. Free meals. Ever worked at any kind of place, any place, free meals is a winner. You put out free meals, they're going to get eaten. Vending machines, the candy jar, happy hours, business travel. Business travel is a big area. It's an area that can really be a challenge if you have employees who need to travel a lot. And this last one, and I went through and I update this information all the time. And I would say, let's see, it was probably about in the late 1980s. Bagel Mondays was a big thing. And I was like, gosh, Bagel Mondays are still a big thing. But they are. It's still a big thing. And these are challenges for our employees. These are challenges for the people we want to help. But here's the thing. Nutrition programs have been trending down, right? Weight loss programs. I'm talking about within the employer environment. Weight loss programs have decreased from 37 to 30%. Nutritional counseling has decreased from 19 to 16%. And other programs are increasing. Now, I think the reason that's happening is because nutrition is hard. It's hard for people to change their eating patterns. It's hard for people to plan. It's hard sometimes for people just to believe that their food can have the type of significant impact that it does on them. And when I went to the health conference this past year, and I listened to presentations from, I can't tell you how many, but it was lots of different digital and health technology companies. I would say 80% of them commented on nutrition being a part of their solution, but only a couple, literally a couple, were actually had nutrition actively as part of it. It's like they talk about it, but they don't really want to work with it because it's too hard. It's too hard to measure. So it's definitely an area that I see as being open for a lot of improvement. And I think it's actually what people are asking for. So what are the programs that are increasing if they're not nutrition? Popular programs include health information. All, and I probably shouldn't say all, but I am, all of their big tech companies, information companies have an enterprise WebMD/employer side. WebMD is Beacon Health Information. WebMD will go to an employer and will sell a portal that is strictly branded for those employees, right? Coaching, phone coaching, online coaching, exercise programs. This could be things such as running challenges. You could run a nutrition challenge, you could run a walking challenge, condition management programs. An example is that would be a diabetes program. On-site and near-site clinics, also a nice place for nutritionists. On-site clinics mean it's the clinic that sits on the campus of the employer. And then near-site clinics, meaning it's a clinic, maybe the employer doesn't have that big of a campus or doesn't want to make that kind of investment, but they do have an arrangement with a clinic nearby. One Medical is an example of a near-site clinic, particularly out here on the West Coast. And I think they exist a little bit in the East Coast as well. But they will be like the near-site clinic. So the employees, you have a problem, you can go over to this particular clinic. And technology everywhere. So now you have kind of an idea of the landscape, what's going on, how digital is infiltrating. But I want to talk about what's the problem here. And this is the problem. This is what we're here to talk about and what we're here to solve today. It's how do we get through the gatekeeper? The gatekeeper being the employer. So we have our proposal. We have our mind on those employees out there that we want to help. And there's this big employer in the middle, and I'm going to tell you, what the employees are talking about and what they want is not necessarily what the employer wants. What is the difference? There's a couple of things here, at least a couple. Let's look at employers first. Employers care about health care savings. They care about healthier and productive employees, having increased morale, recruiting PR, competition. I mean, they look at that, right? If I as an employer need to recruit and I'm competing against these other companies around me, and other companies have all these beefed up programs that look really good and healthy, and we just saw that employees like that, then I need to offer them too. There are those employers who say it's just the right thing and I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you, you find one of those employers, they are golden because they are believers. They are golden. And the big thing, and I probably could have put this one first on the list, is employers want no problems. They want no complaints, no problems, right? They want nothing, no problems from us and a program we put in. They don't want their employees complaining to them because something didn't go right to them with the program. And they certainly don't want their management yelling at them because something went wrong with the program. That's really the driver in all of this. We're generally dealing with human resources or an aspect of human resources. No problems. They want no problems. If you remember nothing else today, just remember the HR wants no problems. Now, we know our employees. We know the people we want to help. They want to feel better. They want to look better. They may have some health concerns. It's just so much information and stuff that they're hearing all the time. Maybe they want to go to the source. And whatever it is that you are offering, you know how it can help people and who the people are that you can help. So here's how we strategically put all this together. Now, you know, as Paula mentioned, 3 key strategies, and hopefully she won't kill me, but I have 4 key strategies because I couldn't leave the last one out. And the 4 strategies are, the first one is F for flare. And I'm going to go through each one. U for unbox. S for spend. And E for evaluate. Evaluate is the one I couldn't leave out. It is about performance and metrics. If you look at my background, I'm all about data. So I just couldn't leave that one out. These are also the primary areas that we can put within the framework of our proposal. And now we've hit on these strategic areas that are so important that I see as being missed and just not well understood when it comes to proposing employer solutions. And we're able to do it in the way of a proposal so that we're clear and everything is grouped together really well. So let me get going. And we're going to go through the different steps. Step number 1, flair. Why are you different? First one is to know the competition, who they are, and what they deliver. So I'm going to use the example of, and this is an example I hear often from nutritionists, is when it comes to corporate wellness, they would like to go out and talk to companies. They would go out and like to deliver talks, meet with groups of people, go in every week, you know, run a group, that sort of thing. Really kind of that one-on-one connection. So who's your competition there? And if you're thinking about that style, you actually think, okay, well, where else would the employee be getting this information? They can get it online. They can read it. Maybe the company has a program that they push out once a year. Maybe they have a contract with WebMD and that information is available to them. But we have to be really aware of what our competition is, and it doesn't always look like we do. So it may come in a different way. So understand why we're different. We need to understand who's the competition, what do they deliver, what do they think makes them so great, and then we're able to talk about what makes us so great. How will you help the employer with their goals? This is a big one because now you got to know the employer goals. Well, sometimes you will have the opportunity to have spoken with an employer in some detail and be able to ask them questions. But when you aren't, and I'm just going to back up a little bit here, go here. These are top goals. Healthcare savings, healthier, productive employees, no problems, right? These are some of the goals that we could think about. And these are some of the things that we can start to think about. How is our program going to show healthcare savings? Now, there's a way to demonstrate that. We may not have our own data, but we all know that if certain types of work that we do, for example, if we increase the education level of someone who is diabetic, it generally leads to an X% improvement in their health. We can dig that out on the web. You know, we can dig out that data and we can correlate what we do with data that's already been substantiated. How will you relate to the employees? Again, why are you so different? I talked to a physical therapist this morning. That's different because there's plenty of apps out there where I don't talk to anybody. So that is different. And the founder feels that having a physical therapist actually speak with someone shows empathy. Okay, that's how they're different. And what makes you special? What makes you different? One thing I think to understand in this particular area is that there's a lot of growth, it's moving fast, and you are not the first person to knock on an employer's door and say, I have this great talk that I want to deliver. You're just not. And so knowing what your talk is, and I'm sure we all know what that is, but how that is going to now align with any competition, how it's going to help the employer, why the employees are going to be interested, why it's so special. Those are the things we need to spell out to people. We need to demonstrate that really clearly to people. Now, step number 2. This is the unboxing. And if you're not sure what unbox is, you need to go out and Google it. So you'll see all these really silly little videos, right? But unboxing is like they use it a lot in tech. So let's say I bought a new laptop. Let's say I bought a new Apple laptop. And I can go out online and I can say unboxing, my particular Mac. And somebody will show, they'll have a box and they'll say, okay, I got this new Mac, and they're videoing it, and they open up the box, and they take out there, it has the machine, and it has a cord, and it has, my earbuds, and whatever is in it. But that's called an unboxing, because you can see what is going to be in the box. For us, it's how does all this work, right? What's in the box? These are the questions that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. If you remember, I'm sitting there with other big employers in the Bay Area asking these health and wellness solutions questions, and they don't have an answer. It's because they haven't thought through the unboxing. They haven't thought through their process. We need to be able to clarify that to the employer, because the employer wants no problems. They want to feel like you've been here before. They want to know that you've thought it through, right? They have their own job. They can't think through all the issues. There are 3 main issues when it comes to unboxing that I find are generally not spelled out very well. The first one is around communication. How are the employees going to know that you're there? Now, sometimes we make assumptions. Oh, they're going to send, the employer is going to send out an email and let everybody know. I don't know. Are they? How many emails are they going to send out? Are they going to send it out? Do they usually have good response, or they send out one email for one event that's happening in 2 weeks? I don't know. We need to know, how will they know? How do you usually communicate these things, and how can I help you communicate them? This is the unboxing. How will the managers know about it? Are the managers in support of it? I mean, don't underestimate that you could have an HR person who is thrilled to be able to communicate and offer your solution. Get up and talk about people about what's going on with gluten. You may have an HR manager who's thrilled to be able to do that. You may have a bunch of managers in that organization who are not interested. So if you think that every 3rd Tuesday of the month at 1 p.m. when you come in to do your talk, everybody's going to be there and the managers are not interested, then it's probably not going to happen. Not the way you think it is. So we need to start thinking about and knowing, in order for my program to be successful, I would like to have this kind of communication, right? Take standard communication. We know how we're emailed and communicated to all the time. See if the employer is open to that. See if they're open to sending out multitudes of emails, or see if they're open to having you on site a couple of times before your talk, before your series of talks. Find out what the managers are thinking about it. Find out what the support in the organization is for what you're doing. Who knows? Maybe the best place for you to start your talk is with the C-suite. I mean, think about it. The second main issue with unboxing is just the offering. What's the process going to look like? As an example, I'm going to go and talk that day. What's going to be going on that day is the day that we've picked, the best day for me to be there. Is the time the best time? Is the location, what does that look like? We're going to be in a big conference room, a small conference room. Am I going to, what am I going to need? Am I going to need probably assistance because it's a big conference room? There's going to be a lot of people. People are going to be asking questions. Who's going to carry around a mic so everyone can ask a question? think through the entire process. Just, sit back, get a chair one day and just think through, I step in, how is this going to go? And what am I going to need? Right? The other unboxing is connection. How are you going to connect with the employees? So as an example, today I'm doing this presentation, right? You're going to have access to the presentation. You're going to have access to the recording. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can contact me. But on that day, do you want people to contact you? Do you want people to come back to your website? How are you going to make that happen? No, I mean, we need to think about those processes, because then we can determine what we want up front and how we're going to build that into our program, and our proposal reflects that, and it reflects the next one, which is showing the employer our value. Now it starts to show. And then just knowing what the employer is going to need from us. The employer expecting reports, invoicing, just be very clear. So, the first step here with step 2, the unboxing, is to work through how does all this go from step A, which is I now have a date and a time for my talk, to making sure you have enough time to communicate it, clear on how you want the communication to go, and just how it's going to work, what you're going to need. Step 3 is spend. Now we may think this is easy because we're just talking about the money, whatever our charge is going to be. But that's part of it. The other part is understanding what resources we need. And this starts to tie with the unboxing piece a little bit. How much of your time? We should really know this, because we're charging based on our time, not just the 1 hour that we talk necessarily. The employer's time and the employee's time. Because all this is cost to the employer. Not, well, your time because you're going to charge them, but their time is cost, and the employee's time is cost. If I, as an employer, am going to say, okay, everybody, it's an hour talk, I want everybody to go, I have to realize that they're not doing that on their time. They may be doing it on the employer's time, and there's a cost to that. And then, and this is a little side note, but something to think about in your planning. If you are going and you're thinking, I'm going to do these lunchtime talks, I want you to think about what is your competition to lunchtime talks. And sometimes it's just having lunch. Sometimes it's people working. Sometimes maybe people running errands. But what is your competition? Also, the spend is, will you need employer resources? I'm going to need a room. We'll need you to email, or I can do the email if you want to give me your employees' emails with some type of, legal document signed. Am I going to need computers? Am I going to need assistants? What's the spend here? What do they need? A lot of times I see solutions come in and they will say that they can do things really quickly and they don't need a lot. And I would always have this this little freeze in my heart, because I would know that if you tell me you can implement something in 3 days, I'm the employer, I'm the one who's in trouble here, because I know that it can't happen in 3 days. It needs to be communicated, it needs to be set up with our systems, we need legal documents signed, right? There's a lot that goes into actually setting it up. So when we're figuring out the spend, the cost, and the resources, be clear that it takes time and resources to set things up and to set it up right. And we shouldn't be shy about being clear about what those are. I think sometimes we are able to get an offering to do something. We're like, oh, okay, I'll go and talk to everybody tomorrow. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But if you're trying to build a successful program and you're trying to build a program that is going to keep going and give you a lot of referrals and maybe allow you to come back and build, you probably want to give yourself some leeway to make sure that it is done in the right way, and you are very clear on your cost, what you're going to charge, and what you need in terms of resources. Okay, here is my fourth one, my favorite one, evaluating the progress. I'm actually teaching an entire course right now on HR metrics and performance analytics. That's all we're talking about is analytics. I had worked with a small employer here in the Bay Area last year, and we wanted to try a new style wellness program. And I thought, it'd be kind of fun. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna work with their team, and I'm gonna teach this wellness program, and I'm gonna lead it. And I wanted them to know what the outcomes were. So I proposed up front that I was gonna provide reporting. There were three, I guess you were talking about 3 different sections that we were working through. And at the end of each section, I was going to provide a report that showed the progress. So I had to think about what does that look like and how am I going to capture this? Now, I personally think providing metrics and analytics to employers is really key. It's expected, and all groups do it. Providing analytics that actually give some good feedback, standing behind the results, working with the results is not what I often get. It's usually like, here's the numbers, these are the number of people that signed up, and that's it. So you want to define in advance how you're going to track results with input from the employer. This is what I think we can do. Are you okay with that? Yeah, I like to see those results. So in my example of working with this company, we did this 3 times. So, the first time I go through my little wellness program. At the end of the program, I did a survey. So I'm tracking participation all along the way because it ran about 4 or 6 weeks. And then I did a survey because I wanted to identify what's the change for the employees, and I wanted to relate that to an ROI number. So here I am, I have the survey and I'm going through results and I'm calculating results and I'm sweating, right? Because what if my wellness program showed no results, right? I mean, that's the scary part about doing that. Well, lucky for me, it did show results, but it also created an opportunity for me to highlight what I thought went really great with it and what needed some improvement. So let's look at this last bullet. Make it a process. Measure, refine, measure. Employers are really used to this. Measure, refine, measure. I measured that first time. I can refine my process. It seems like they're not so interested in, talking about gluten, but gosh, they love talking about vegetables and cooking. So we're going to do more of that going forward. And then you refine your offering and you measure it again. It's a great way to form a connection, a strategic connection with your employer, and to demonstrate that you really stand behind your program. I mean, one of the reasons why I'm so happy to speak with this group today is because we are people who want to help the end user. Not all health solutions care that much about the employee, the end user, not so much. And so because we care, the opportunity to keep making things better and making our solution and tweaking our solution so that we're helping people, I think it's just golden. So I'm going to come back to the second bullet. There are a lot of metrics you can use. These are just some of my favorite. Your reporting doesn't have to be huge. Participation is an easy one. We should all be tracking participation. Return on investment, that's where we tie together. I'm going to do a series of talks. We know that when people increase their knowledge, their health improves by X%. Therefore, that translates to so many dollars. That's what we're doing for return on investment and employee change surveys. So even if you're doing a talk for one day, think about a way that you can capture a change in employees' thought or knowledge or something that they're going to do to kind of move their health forward. And is there a way that you can have a quick survey maybe afterwards and be able to capture that information and get it back to the employer? So it really shows why you are connected and just why you're a good solution and a good proposal. So we have Fuse. There is Flare, why you're different, Unbox, how's it going to work, the Spin, what's it going to cost, dollars and resources, and to evaluate what's the progress, right? Measure, refine, measure. So you got four strategic areas there to focus on. Put those all in your proposal. You don't have to name them, Fuse, but put them in your proposal under appropriate name for you, and just cover that type of information so that the employer now has a feel that you not only know your offering, you know the employee, but you know them, you know the employer, you know what they need, and you know how you are going to make their lives so much more wonderful by them hiring you and allowing you to come and partner with their organization. Now, another question I get often is, that's great. How do I get this going? Right? Fuse is great, but I got to get an employer market. So here are some areas that I think if you're not doing, you may want to consider. One is to be a professional in the workplace, in workplace wellness. What I mean by that is make sure it's kind of noted in your LinkedIn, connect with groups, get on mailing lists. Don't do it as a side gig. Do it as part of what you do, right? It's kind of the same. I think of it as the same thing. The same way I'm trying to help people individually, these people, I'm just trying to help them through their employer. I'm still trying to help these people. Know the landscape. Like I said, the landscape is changing, it's morphing, it's evolving. Keep up with it. Read magazines about it. Like I said, take your buddy to Vegas and go to the health conference and check it out, right? Boost your LinkedIn. If you are not in LinkedIn or you don't spend time in LinkedIn, check it out. I am happy to connect. Many of you have already connected with me, and I totally, completely appreciate that. I'd like to connect with people on LinkedIn, talk to people on LinkedIn. It has been an amazing resource for me. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you an example. I had wanted to work with this company here in the Bay Area, and I didn't know anybody at that company. And so I figured out who the owners were, who the founders were, and I went out on my LinkedIn, and one of the founders had a connection with a woman who I had taken meditation training from years ago. And so I reached out to her through LinkedIn, and I said, hey, I see that you're connected with John on LinkedIn. Can you make a connection for me? Do you know him? So I sent her this note. I go into my yoga class. I come out of my yoga class. She was thrilled to do it. She contacts John. He's thrilled to hear from her. He contacts me. He gives me times for us to get together and meet. When I come out of class, this is all set up for me. So do not undermine the impact of LinkedIn and those connections that run through there. Go where human resources goes, online and offline. If they're in LinkedIn groups, you're in LinkedIn groups. If they are at certain conferences and HR conferences, start going there and hearing what they're talking about, meeting a few people. Call or email, seek a connection if needed. Don't be afraid to call. Don't be afraid to email. Just do not be afraid to reach out to employers. It's really how the connection is made. And follow. So when we have potential connections and you reach out to them and you don't hear from them, don't be disheartened. Oftentimes we have to follow. There are people that I wished would have followed with me more than once because I got really busy and then I had some traveling to do and then something else happened. Before I know it, it's a couple of months before I even think of them again, but I did want to talk to them and potentially wanted to buy something from them. So follow. So I know that's a lot of information. If you need any help, you want to, pick my brain a little bit, you actually want some more in-depth help with putting together, let's say, your analytics, or you have an idea for a program, you just want to figure out, like, how can I lay it out so that I can work this into the employer market? Any help that you need in that area, feel free to reach out to me. Here is my email, my phone number. At minimum, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can always go to opencircles.net. It's a way for you to hear what I have going on and to connect with me. And I want to mention I have a podcast coming up, and it's called Re-Envision Health. And so if you like this space of health and how technology and information is impacting health, go here. We're going to be talking to people who are actually driving that. We're going to be talking to different founders in technology, actual people that we know that we've worked with that have made profound change, and just understanding more about that market. So I thank you for your time today. I'd love to hear your questions.
All right, Sylvia, thanks so much. It was a great introduction to this. I appreciate it. Let's see what's happening here. You talked about health conference, health.com conference, and how great it is, but it seemed like it was all about digital health, but it was live conference. Is that right? In-person conference?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I talked about it necessarily being great in terms of, it's like the greatest. It was very, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't use the term great, but I think if you are interested in either digital health, and it is about health, it is health technology, and or you just want to, gosh, I want to see what's going on here, it would definitely be a place to go.
Okay.
And it is in person.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that it's a place to make reasonable connections, like HR people would be in attendance of something like this?
No, I think there are some HR people there, but if I was looking for HR people, one way you can do it is there is, I'm gonna give you one organization. It's I think it's Society for Human Resource Management, usually SHRM as in Mary. They're a good organization to kind of get into and see when their conferences are. Also, Google HR conferences, and you will find that, pretty much every area has a big conference.
Okay.
I just went to one here in Oakland. I know there's a bigger California one. Also, look at National Business Group on Health and see what they have going on. They have a number of things that go on throughout the year. but that's a way to actually start connecting with HR and those who are making the decisions in employer health.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Can you give an indication of what kind of programs that you've seen work? I mean, just a list of things that you indicated in terms of nutrition programs trending down and things like that. But right before that, you talked about business travel and what an impact business travel is, and it's difficult. You know, you're
Yeah,
traveling, you're away from home, you're sleeping in unusual places, you're eating whatever you can find.
right.
And so I think that could be potentially a really valuable um, solution to offer to
I
a company with age, right?
I do
From
too.
management all the way down to whoever's traveling, even if it's
Exactly,
social
exactly.
traveling.
Yeah, I think looking at those particular groups of employees, business travel, I'll give you an example. Guys working out on platforms, that are what, 10, 15 miles out in the ocean. And generally they're out there for like 21 days straight.
Hmm.
And there was a study done because they were having all these health problems. And
Hmm.
when someone has a health problem out on a platform, they have to like helicopter them back in, which isn't cheap.
Yeah.
And it was a whole food related issue. So
Hmm.
they changed up the menu and everybody got healthy. And that's something that as a consultant, you come in and look at it and say, well, you know what, they could also use some education,
Hmm.
as well. So I think looking at these groups, people who work at home, working at home is also an ever expanding area.
Hmm.
Um, and just thinking about the employee. And I would say the programs that I've seen work the best are ones that are most in keeping with the culture of the organization and the culture of the employees. So I've kind of overseen a number of programs. And I remember saying at my last company, which was a very competitive company,
Hmm.
I said, we should just do a challenge. I
Hmm.
said, it's competitive. They're going to do challenges.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it's like the best, it's the best wellness event ever. It could be a challenge about anything, but if it
Sure.
was a challenge, they were about it.
They were up
So
for it.
they were up for it. So yeah, so we just have to know who is it that we're talking. Do you have a company in mind? What do we know about that company?
Yeah.
What do we know about the employees there?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Great questions. I mean, the weight is one of the biggest issues in that we're facing in this country, and there's lots of different ways being proposed to manage it and deal with it. So, I mean, I wonder, is like weight, is that a reasonable topic, or is it more condition focused programs that work, or eating to be healthy, coaching as needed? I mean, talk about the challenges. Do we put that in a 6-week program, like one time a week, or 21-day program where we're addressing something and moving forward through the whole offering?
Yeah.
It's a very
Yeah.
vague question, but it's broad. And but I mean, how do you even know
Yeah.
where to take it? People, our graduates and our students have their niches, they have areas that they're focusing on, but to take it into workplace wellness, what suggestions do you have there for guiding us?
Yeah. So, yeah, weight is a big issue. And I don't think you can necessarily go in with weight. Um, to be honest with you, I'm not sure what you could go in with that would really work in kind of the area of anywhere around weight or losing weight. Um, but I also think that timing, keep it less than a month, 21 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people can wrap their head around something
Mm-hmm.
that's 21 days. I think when we start getting down to 6 weeks, I think that's hard. If
Mm-hmm.
you have young families, that is a wonderful area because
Mm-hmm.
they are concerned about food.
Yeah.
They are concerned about how their family eats. They are concerned about making that connection,
Mm-hmm.
to keep their kids eating well and them eating well. That's really a wonderful area. And I actually think that there is a lot of interest with younger people, particularly in kind of the fitness area. So if there's a company that is very fitness minded or they kind of lean in that direction. You know, there was a company in Oakland whose CEO, he would run. And if you want to meet with him, you had to be a runner because you had to run with him around the lake. That type of company, I think, would also be interested in that way.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that direction-oriented response. Good question here. How do you get employers to disclose their budget? And then how do you determine pricing for a one-day workshop to a more involved series?
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, yes. So I'll tell you what I do. I personally don't like working with their budget. I prefer to work with my budget. I don't know if that's just crazy, but that's kind of how I lead. And generally, with most companies I have worked with, they tell us what their pricing is. They don't ask us, well, how much do you have to spend? They tell us what their pricing is. So I feel like when you are charging, gosh, for an employer market, and we can think about it this way: human resource consultants out there charge somewhere between, and this is kind of across the country, $250 on that is considered low. Well, for Bay Area is considered low. To $500-$600 an hour. And usually I use that in the work I'm doing as a way of trying to figure out how much should I charge for what I'm doing? How much an hour should I charge? And for me, I calculate up how much of my time this is going to take, how I want to charge them, or how much I want to charge them. And it is often uncomfortable for me, and I go with it. And that's really how I get there. I don't work from budgets. But if you put together a really good proposal and you come in there like, you know, I know how to do this, and I'm going to give it. First off, nobody's giving reporting. The companies give reporting, but it's really not that good. But I'm going to give you some not just metrics, but I'm going to give you some analytics. And I'm going to dig into this, and you show why you're different and why you're special and why you're so interested in the employees and helping them and moving this forward. I think you can command a higher price.
I wonder if trying to determine or get an employer to disclose their budget would have a little bit of hesitance on that part, because they say, well, my budget is this much, and then you go then you charge the highest amount that they'll allow,
or the lowest is what I worry about. You don't want to charge, you want to charge what you're worth. Unless, you know, you can say, I really like you guys and I'm happy to do it. That's a different thing.
Sure.
But yeah, the budget thing, and I've always worked for large companies. So within large companies, they don't ask about the budget. They just say, hey, we want to charge you, you know, this much. And there's two ways to charge. You would charge, if let's say you're giving a talk or you're working with a group or you're doing a workshop, you would charge for that in total. Or if you're doing something where you're going to be working with a lot of people individually, you may charge an employee charge. You know, for everybody who comes through and I work with them, I charge a certain amount. Yeah.
All right. That's helpful.
It's a hard, pricing is hard. Pricing is a hard question.
Knowing your worth is, you know, for one thing that I've always considered is my demographic. I've worked in the Bay Area, and I've worked in very rural communities as well. It's quite different what people have to spend. And so knowing my worth based on my training and my experience is one thing. But if nobody can afford me, because that's what I'm charging my worth is, my worth is, I think my worth is also very largely determined by, am I available? Am I accessible? Right? Or
I have
only
a friend who charges like that too. He charges exactly like that. If I really like it, I'm not going to charge you a lot. If I don't like the project, yeah. Yeah. And if you're working in an area where, people don't have a lot of money to spend, you kind of you have to ask those questions, I think. You have to just start knowing. You have to have some friends.
Yeah. How do you get in?
Yeah. Uh,
I'm going to circle us back here to evaluation and your measure.
okay.
So one way you talked, it's like my question here is how. So you produced a survey for yours,
Hmm.
but how did you determine what you were measuring and what questions that you wanted? I mean, the questions are for your employees, right? Or is the
Right.
survey to the employers? Also, do you survey them?
Well, you do, but the survey that I'm talking about here was actually for the employees.
Mhm, mhm,
So let's say part of the work I did with them was around nutrition.
mhm,
And I came in and I spoke, let's say, 2, 3 times, and I actually gave them things to do. And I gave them things that I can measure and keep up with, like whether they did it or they didn't do it. And the first thing I gave them was something that they had to go off and do on their own, and hardly anybody did it. The second thing I gave them to do was connected with something they could do at work, and it got better. And the
mhm.
third thing I had them do was connected at work and with each other at work, because they were very community-based,
Yes.
employer, and they did really well there. So I was
Mhm,
able to say, oh, here's the participation, right? I can see the
mhm,
participation increase.
mhm.
The other thing at the end of the survey, I asked, I think it was 5 questions. And they revolved around what I had hoped that they had learned. Do you feel more confident about making your own meal, as
Mhm,
an example,
mhm.
than you did 4 weeks ago? And then you give them a range, yes,
Yes.
no, a little, a lot. And I would just calculate it that way.
Yeah.
And that would give me a way to say, well, look, most people say it's a lot to a whole lot better.
Mhm.
And you share that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because this measure. Some people are very specific in their data. It's like,
Mhm.
but I need a specific percentage here. It's like, well, 90% of the employees responded that it was an excellent, and we have largely improved their eating habits because of this.
Right, right. Yeah.
I
It's
take
just
that
giving them
as
giving the
very
employer
high.
back.
Hmm.
Yeah, giving the employer back just some feedback on what their employees think. Yeah, and you could say that's really high, and I think we could even improve on that number, because there's 10% that said this thing, and
Yes.
I think you share that out. You share
I
that
think
back.
that's a really good point too, that while you're measuring and while you're reporting back to the employer is to say, look how well this did first time out the gate. And
Mhm.
and I can see ways that, how to refine this and how to improve this to have even better outcomes next time.
Mhm.
Because you're building your case to return and not just have a one-off with them.
Right,
Mhm.
right,
Like get
right.
in their door and maybe have more than one offering, right? It's like come
Yeah.
back again seasonally maybe, or
Hmm.
once
Yeah.
in my experience is once you're in the door and they know you and they can count on you, and there aren't any problems with you. and
Right, right. Then
you're
you're
in
in a
like,
good place.
yeah. But the thing that concerned me the most here was you're reporting initially that well, other things were on the rise. Nutrition programs were down because they're
Hmm.
just too hard. So here you are, holistic nutrition grad yourself, and doing this large and in charge kind of work, but the nutrition programs are just too hard. But
Yeah.
that's kind of the essence of our health, right? And so what would work in terms of a nutrition related program that might get in a door and be supportive of employees' needs, but also something that they can actually accomplish?
Yeah. I personally, I think the door is wide open on nutrition. Um, I think the data that we're seeing is representative of people put together programs and solutions. They get funding. They take it out to the employer market.
Mhm.
They want something that's the easier it is, the better it is. The easier it is to get funding, right? The easier it is to get it going. And I think a lot of that is some of the function that we're seeing, and because nutrition takes a little bit more effort and more of a hands-on approach,
Mhm.
that's what makes it difficult. So, in my opinion, what I've seen fail in terms of nutrition programs is I think this tremendous focus on weight, which really kind of makes me crazy. Like, what's your weight? What's your size?
Mhm.
I'm too fat. I think that I think we need to spin that a little bit. We need to get people out of the weight focus. We
Mhm.
need to help people understand their food more, and we need to stop, I think, competing. Here's the thing, food we're gonna have every day, and we're gonna have several times a day, and we need to find a way to make people have healthy relationships with their food.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, is the inner problems with nutrition.
I think
And
for
so,
me, oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but when we could just come back to the difficulty within the workplace, and
yeah.
you nailed it. Bagel Monday, celebrations, free food, vending machines. What do you get at the workplace? I mean, have you ever been in the hospital and seen the nurses station? I mean, this is a place where
I
we
know.
bring people to heal, but the
It's
nurses aren't
awful.
representative of, or neither
Yeah.
is hospital food. But come back into workplace, hospital or not. So I just created a problem for the employer by pointing that out. But this is how we can
Yeah.
improve this in very simple and strategic ways that make people more productive, have them feel better about themselves, and that
Yeah.
translates to the workplace and in their home.
Right, right. We need to, I think it's really up to us to be creative in
Hmm.
this area.
Hmm.
I really do.
Me too. Like you said, the door is wide open
It
here, and
is.
I encourage us to walk boldly through those corporate doors and
Right,
make our
right,
proposals, right?
right,
So,
right, right, right.
so while you're working on your programs and you're developing your things while your students at Hawthorn as part of your assignments, think of the bigger picture. It's like I'm doing this. I mean, the assignments at Hawthorn are largely designed to be applicable. It's like, what are you going to do in your personal life and your professional life? So
Yeah.
they're there for a reason.
Yeah. 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 No, I think there's a lot of great opportunity out there. Um,
Mhm.
we just have to come up with a different, we don't know, we just have to talk about it differently.
I agree.
And I think we all understand it intuitively. I think we got
Mhm.
it, but we
Mhm.
have to kind of be able to get that out. Yeah.
Well, this has been a terrific presentation, and I value your expertise and what you've brought to the table and your willingness to talk to people additionally should they have specific questions. So thank you for that too.
Yeah,
I
and
do have,
thank you.
yeah, I love your energy and your enthusiasm and your success, so it leads us, you're the champion at the helm here.
Well, thank you. And um, I'm real, like I said, I'm thrilled to be here, happy to connect with anyone. Um, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of change coming.
We need it
And with my
positively.
podcast, yeah, I'm trying to not bend it so much to nutrition, but I'm just interested in that. So, if you're
Yeah,
doing something interesting, reach out to me. Let me know.
good, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, everybody, I just have a few closing comments and thoughts for you. So if you can hang just for another minute, I want to remind you that the webinar was recorded and it'll be available on Hawthorn's website under archived webinars in a few days. And there's a survey to fill out as soon as the webinar ends, and it always helps us to have your feedback and any comments about the presentation. So I appreciate you taking the time. There are some specific questions, but if you have any comments, any feedback about this presentation, anything that you want me to bring to the table, please let me know. I want to remind you that our next webinar is May 7th, and we have Angela Anderson bringing her expertise to speak to us on addressing our false beliefs about money so we can create true wealth. She's calling it Unlock Your Money Code. This is really, her work. And so I'm thrilled to give her a platform and a voice and help us. So we're confident when we walk in those corporate doors.
Exactly. We ask for our worth.
Our next All About Alumni, it's our graduate interview series. It's Wednesday, May 1st, May Day. It's at noon Pacific time, and we have nutrition consultant graduate Safa Arias with us. And she's going to be presenting on her postgraduate activities. And we've had so many previous really terrific graduate interview presentations, so I hope you'll check out our archives on those as well. Certainly, if we've inspired you to learn more about health and nutrition or corporate wellness with all the webinars that we've offered over the years, I want to remind you that Hawthorn offers a variety of nursing programs and courses. If you want to learn more about them specifically, you can visit our website. A lot of details there and information about the school and all the individual things. And Kathy McDermott's our Director of Admissions, should you want more personalized attention. And lastly, we offer these webinars freely. And while your attendance really matters, I want to put it out there that if you can support the mission that we're doing here and offering these freely, please just consider a little donation from time to time. It's simple. From our website, you'll find a donate button. You'll find a donate button at the bottom of the homepage under other links. Just click that. Finally, I want to thank James Bernardinelli, who engineers our webinars and always takes care of everything behind the scenes, including any flubs that I have. And I just want to thank you again, Sylvia. It's been a terrific presentation. And I want to thank you and everybody for sharing this educational experience together. I wish you all the best of health. I always look forward to learning more together at Hawthorn University's webinar and All About Alumni series. So join me again in 2 weeks. Until then, take good care, everybody.